Okay, so last video we talked about how government expenditure credits the bank accounts of recipients and tax receipts have the opposite effect. The next thing that everyone says is that if the government prints money, then we're going to end up like Zimbabwe, and we'll be carrying our piles of paper money to buy a loaf of bread. Now, the first thing to note is that all government spending is money creation. There's no point at which the government decides, oh, we'll run up the printing presses and add some more money now. Every time they spend money, they create it, and every time they tax, they destroy it. And taxes cannot fund spending in the same way that the number 2 cannot be reused. Every time you write down a number 2, that's a new version of the number 2. So taxes don't fund things, and there's no point at which the government decides to print money and inject it, causing inflation or diluting the rest of the money. But inflation can occur. So let's look at how that happens. Imagine we have here Gail the grocer, and she has 8 oranges to sell, and there are 3 people, and they each have $1. Now Gail needs 2 oranges for herself, so 2 oranges go to Gail. Now first person wants to buy 2 oranges and pays $1. Same with the second person, they get 2 oranges, and same with the third person, they get 2 oranges. Now let's look at it again. Gail has 8 oranges. Now we have our 3 people, and now only 2 of them have $1. The third one doesn't have any money. So Gail takes her 2 oranges as usual. First person buys their 2 oranges, second person buys their 2 oranges, but now this person doesn't have any money. So we're going to throw away 2 oranges, and this person's going to starve to death. So you can see that the first scenario where everyone had enough money to buy all the oranges versus the second scenario where not everyone had enough money to buy the oranges did not result in a difference in price of oranges. But in the second instance, Gail only received $2 for her oranges. In the first instance, she received $3 for her oranges. Now let's say it costs $3 to produce 8 oranges. That means in the second situation, Gail's going to go out of business because the third person couldn't buy the oranges. So if someone doesn't have any money, the government can come along and give them some money. And that allows them to buy the oranges. Gail gets the money, she stays in business, this person doesn't die of starvation. The way the government can give that money is by giving that person a job if they want to work. Otherwise, if they don't want to work or they're unable to work, you can just give them enough money to buy the oranges. Or maybe you can buy the oranges and then supply it to them as government orange juice or something like that if we need oranges to survive. But in no case here has inflation occurred as a result of government spending because the number of people wanting oranges and the output of oranges was matched up. So let's look at it again. Gail has produced 8 oranges, and we have the same 3 people who like to eat oranges. Gail takes her 2 oranges, but now instead of there being $1 each, these 2 people have $2 and this person has 1. And so these people might say, well, we've got extra money and we like oranges, so we're going to buy 3 oranges each for $2. And now this person can't buy any more oranges. And the price of oranges has increased because we had more money chasing the same number of goods and services. And if the government came along and said, hey, we're the government and we have a policy of buying oranges, and so we're going to buy these oranges, so those oranges get extinguished, all of a sudden you've got $5 chasing 4 oranges. So now maybe someone has to wait until their next year's salary gets paid in order to bid up the price of oranges again. So the only time inflation occurs is when the government competes with the private sector or when more money is issued than the productive capacity of the society. As long as there is spare capacity, then the government can always afford to buy that surplus without inflation risk. And the most obvious sign of a surplus is unemployed labour. When people are unemployed, the government can afford to hire those people to do constructive, useful work at a socially inclusive minimum wage that does not compete with the private sector employers in order to maintain demand in the economy and ensure that the businesses like Gale get the amount of money they need in order to keep producing oranges.